guess I better keep my glasses on.
Hi, Lana.
Are we good?
So we have everyone in the waiting room has been admitted.
Okay, it looks like some are still coming up. Good morning. I'm Sandy Frank, Secretary of the League of Women Voters of Lee County, and I would like to welcome you today on behalf of Clara Ann Graham, President of the League of Women Voters of Lee County, to Environment and Growth Management, an educational event to increase understanding of public policy issues. First, I would like to thank Dr. Demers for her important work and for sharing her information today. And thanks to all of you for participating today. Since 1920, the League has worked to empower voters, to defend democracy, and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League is nonpartisan and does not endorse candidates. Today, there are many opportunities for all of us to speak up in Florida and in the US on proposals that will make it harder to vote, silence dissent, harm our environment, and strip powers from local governments. We urge all of you to engage in the decisions that impact your lives. Be informed and make your voices heard with elected officials and at the ballot box. The information on the programs and issues of the League of Women Voters will help you with becoming informed on a variety of issues. And all of those are posted on the websites at the United States, Florida, and Lee County level for the League of Women Voters. And at this point, I would like to introduce Laura Miller, who is the Director of Environment for the League of Women Voters of Lee County, and she will share some of her work and introduce our speaker today. Thank you.
Good morning. Our speaker this morning is Dr. Nora Egan Demers, a member of the biology faculty at FGCU. From the time she arrived in Southwest Florida, she has been an active supporter of a healthy environment and of the lifestyle that goes with it. She's in her second year as chair of the Estero Bay Agency for Bay Management, an advisory group which strives to keep Southwest Florida a healthy place to live. We think the League needs to know more about the agency and about Dr. Demers and the ideal person to tell us how it came to be and how it carries out its role in the community. May I present my good friend, Dr. Nora Demers. Okay, Nora.
Wow, thanks, Laura. Talking to the League of Women Voters, it's hard to believe I'm the best one to tell this story because I am a newcomer, and I'm grateful for the support structure that's come from all of the people, especially a lot of the women that I've met and work with in Lee County in Southwest Florida. So I like to know who I'm in the room with. And it's also really weird to be sitting down giving a presentation. I don't, that's not something that happened before. So just even that is a little unsettling. But, and I'm also wondering how well you're going to be able to see my slides this close up. So I'm assuming a lot of you are much closer to the computer, and so you may be able to see things. It doesn't matter, but I'm just curious. So what I'd like to do first is get a feel for everybody in the room. So if you're able to, if you could show your video, just so we can find out who's here and who we are. And then I'm going to do a couple of quick questions asking you to use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen. So if you can identify that reactions button and be ready to use it as we get started today. So for those of you that are just joining in, if you have an opportunity to turn on your video and get ready to use the reaction button. So thank you again, and let's get started with, if you are a full-time resident of Southwest Florida, could you please give me the thumbs up? And that thumbs up will appear in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. So full-time residents of Florida, thumbs up. And it looks like for the people, oops, they went down. It looks like for the people that are in the room, what happened? Full-time residents, we're only down to 3 now, 4, 5. Okay, so maybe half of us are full-time residents? Is that fair, Laura or Sandy?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I can't find the button you're talking about. So I'm sitting here raising my thumb.
That works. Very bottom of the screen, across the bottom, the one on the right should say reactions.
I'm on a tab, react the same way as the computer.
Yeah, click
It has a
reactions
mind of
and
its own.
we should see a thumbs up. If not, your thumbs up will work. So let's try it really quick. Thumbs up if you're a full-time resident. I just want to see everybody really quick. Quite a few thumbs up, but okay, almost everybody it looks like. Thank you. Next question, we're going to use the ta-da, which is the upper right-hand corner. It looks like a party. You know, somebody's shooting out stuff. So I'm going to ask intervals of time in how long you've lived in Southwest Florida. So we're going to start with the most recent time interval and go forward until we get ta-das across the screen. Okay, so let's start with, if you've been in Southwest Florida for less than 1 year, hit the ta-da. Okay, somewhere between 1 and 5 years, hit ta-da.
Can I make a clarification for people who are part-time? Do you want people who are part-time or only people who are full-time to?
Absolutely, everybody now, for sure. I mean, you guys might only be here part-time, but clearly this is your home, or you wouldn't be in today's event. Yeah, good question. Okay, so less than 1 year, ta-da. Between 1 and 5 years, ta-da. 5 to 10 years. Kimberly. Pete. It's amazing, Pete, that it's been that long already. Okay, between anywhere from 15 years ago or less. Everybody else keep your ta-das up so we can see them. I'd like to get the full screen lit by the time we're done, and then we can see where we came in. Okay, so put your ta-da back up if you've been here at least 15 years. Okay, anywhere less than 20 years. If you've been here 20 years, but not more than that, keep your ta-da up. Okay, so this isn't working very well because I got some people that said they were here and now they're apparently not. So, all right, so let's put all the hands down. I'll do one last one. If you've been here 25 years or more, give me ta-da, or a hand up will work. Okay, so this, this makes it clear that of all the people that could tell this story, I'm only one of them. All right, and thank you very much. I am grateful for the opportunity to think kind of broadly about what Southwest Florida has been in the years that I've been here. I don't think I've ever told a story quite like this before. This is not a story of me and what happened to me and what I do, but it's my perspective on what the region that I moved to has done and is doing. So, clearly history is written by the people who tell it. And I'm only giving you my perspective on this history. So it's going to be very different. I hope that I can engage and not offend, but I'm not always very good at that. I'm the president of the Socially Inept Club, SIC. So forgive me for my comments if they offend. It's not intentional. I'm just learning how to speak in ways that don't offend, and I'm not very good at it. But anyway, let's get started. Presentation that Laura asked me for a month or so ago at the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management, and she asked me to talk about these things. So she said she wanted to know and let the League of Women Voters know more about the Responsible Growth Management Coalition, the lawsuit and settlement agreement that led to the creation of the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management, and what the DRGR is. So DR is density reduction and GR is groundwater resource. The EEO is the environmental enhancement overlay, which is a new designation in the LEAD plan, I think about 2015. And then talk about the Kiker Preserve, which those of you that have been here longer may know as Edison Farms, or before that, Agri Partners. And then my question is, what do we do? So this presentation is really a bunch of images with hyperlinks on them. So I'm going to show you a few of them. I'm hoping that some of you will be interested in looking at the presentation further and checking those hyperlinks. Okay, so we just did this. I just wanted to show you the front page of my resume, CV, and spend another moment just taking who I am backwards in time. So I'm the 8th of 10 children, and I was raised Catholic. Grew up in the suburbs of St. Louis, graduated high school in 1980. I took about 6 years off and did things like manage a donut shop. I was a cashier, I was a nurse's aide, and then moved back from California to Missouri, in this time Rolla, Missouri, which is a well-known engineering school. 4 years there to get my bachelor's, and then I spent 6 years at Oregon State University getting my master's and Ph.D. I had 1 year at the Evergreen State College, which is a liberal college that doesn't even have grades. They have narrative grades. And I joined FGCU as a founding faculty when it opened in 1997. That's when I found out that FGCU was built in primary panther habitat. And being raised Catholic, I decided that I needed to join the Responsible Growth Management Coalition as a sort of penance. So this is just the community service that's most recent on my resume. So I've been on the RGMC since about 2002 as their secretary for a good interval there. And as Laura said, I'm on the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management as the chair now. So the top image is what FGCU looked like when I got here. And this is an image of it. It says now, so this was 20 years after. So this was 2007 or so. I wanted to give a plug for this program. If you don't know about it, I urge you, I beg you to participate. Pete's done it a couple of times. Anybody that's older than 60 years old in the state of Florida can audit any classes. And this link will get you to the page that will allow you to follow up and find out how to audit. But the more that we can get the different generations together and talking and sharing information, the more hope I have for our future. And so I wanted to put that plug in. Also wanted to put a plug in for taking this course if you have the opportunity. It's called University Colloquium. The focus is ecological literacy, sense of place, environmental education, and sustainability. And one of the first activities we do in there is ask people to write an environmental educational autobiography. And there's a couple pages that are hidden that showed mine. But I wanted to start with this. And I think everybody here knows that this quote from Margaret Mead is really, I'm grateful that there are small groups of thoughtful, committed citizens that do help change the world. So I want to introduce you to some of them. So this is Bill Mellon. Probably quite a few of you know him. He's the former president of the Lee County Conservation Association. And that group are what is responsible for the Estero Bay Aquatic Preserve, the first aquatic preserve in the state of Florida. And this video down here is a WGCU presentation called Preserving Our Waters. It's 26 minutes. and it was put out in 2016, which was the 50th anniversary of the creation of the Estero Bay Aquatic Preserve. So that gives you something about how we got to 50 years of an aquatic preserve in Florida. And then I'm going to pick up with the Responsible Growth Management Coalition. Again, this is a link to the webpage. It's somewhat static, but there's a lot of good information. The first and only button I'm going to show you on here is the About Us. And these are highlights of the activities from 1988 to 2003. And I think, again, some of you guys probably know Edie Slayton, Jean and Ellie Boyd, and John Cassani, who is now the Calusa Waterkeeper, helped pull together this early history of the RGMC. I wanted to point out the Growth Management Act in 1985 that allowed citizens a rigorous opportunity to participate in the planning process, and identify also that this thing called the DRGR, Density Reduction Groundwater Resource Area, exists because of the efforts of those people and leadership by the Responsible Growth Management Coalition, as well as many other people, probably the League of Women Voters as well. So I wanted to highlight that, and then just show you the 2002 membership of the RGMC. And I'm fortunate to know many of these people and to have known them. And I just wanted to, show you and give a shout out to them. Dave Urich is one of the first he was on the founding leadership of the RGMC, and he is the last man standing for the leadership. And right now he's in New Hampshire with his family, and hopefully he'll be down in the fall. And we're going to get the FGCU archives to do some historical capturing of his role. So 2013, WGCU put together a program called the Makers of Southwest Florida, and I nominated two of my mentors and heroes for that. One of them was Ellie Boyd, president of the RGMC. And again, if you just click on this, it will bring you to that video and you can watch her clip. I also, okay, and so this is the settlement agreement that was signed in '95. The lawsuit was the Responsible Growth Management Coalition and Ellen Peterson as the only individual, and they sued the Florida Board of Regents and the South Florida Management District, and Lee County as an intervener on their behalf. And it was signed in April of 1995. You can see Tom Reese was the lawyer for the RGMC, and also, as I said, the only individual that signed this settlement agreement. So this is Ellen, and again, she had passed away just before the makers finished their filming. So this is, historical and tells you a little bit about Ellen. So part of that settlement agreement was the creation of the Arnold Committee. So Arnold, Keith Arnold was the representative that helped facilitate getting FGCU where it is in Southwest Florida. And so they, part of the settlement agreement was to convene the people and get all of this background information so that we could do our best to try to help the developments of regional impact that were coming and examine the cumulative impacts that result from developments of this sort. So the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council was mandated to establish an Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management, which is a subcommittee of the Regional Planning Council. And the regulation was to provide staff as well. So the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Commission Council was created in 1973, okay? And this is another part of the settlement agreement. I underlined this part because it's very important. So they identified what the membership shall consist of, not be limited to, but an important feature is the Lee County Legislative Delegation members who desire to participate. So I hadn't really noticed that till I put together this presentation I knew that their participation was voluntary because we're just an advisory board, but I didn't realize that the settlement agreement had identified and given this, special dispensation to legislative delegations for desire only. So I just wanted to point that out, reaffirm that it is a non-regulatory advisory committee to the Regional Planning Council. The directive is to make comments and recommendations regarding the management of Estero Bay and its watershed. Okay, and then just a little more language there. So our goal is to maintain data, talk to each other, try to do what we can to help preserve Estero Bay, the watershed, and in the words of the Responsible Growth Management Coalition, assuring that Southwest Florida remains a desirable place to live. So this is the web page for the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management. There's a number of links here. We have several new members. Very happy to see that the new chair of the Lee County Board of Commissioners, Kevin Ron, I hope I said his name right, Laura Carr from Bonita Springs, and Bill Veach from the town of Fort Myers Beach are all currently active participants on the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management. And past couple months that they've been, it became clear that we needed to find a sense of place for those new members so that they could figure out what was going on. And so if you click here, what you'll see is just this a 7-minute a 7-minute video. Sorry, what happened? Do you still have my screen? You guys still see?
Yes, we see the screen. I think
Yeah.
it might have been someone else, another participant. Everyone mute, please.
I just want to make sure. Well, I'm not seeing.
We had you, now we have something else. Okay, you're back.
Okay, that was weird. All right, so let me try and get caught up. Get to the story that you're asking for. So this will give you a 7-minute overview of the webpage and how you can find out what the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management has done and is doing now. So who we elect matters, and what they do with what we say matters. So I wanted to show, this is the Florida governors from the 1953 to 2019. And the ones that that have stuck in my head the most was Bob Graham, 1979 to 87. So you can see that's the interval when that Growth Management Act came forward. I put a green line here for when I arrived in 97. Honestly, I do not recall when Childs or McKay were governors. I don't know about that time because I wasn't tuned into the government that much until then. And when Jeb Bush and these other ones I do remember, and I wanted to identify Rick Scott as a pretty big player in the role of governors in environmental issues. So this is the Lee County Commissioners from 1990 to 2004. Not sure how well you can see it. John Manning, Doug St. Surly, Ray Judah, Frank Mann, Albion, and then if you haven't heard Bill Hammond tell you that all it takes is 3 votes, I'm sure most of you guys know that as well. And so I wanted to go on to show you one of the sets of 3 votes, which was so important, was a 2006 vote by Ray Judah, Bob Janes, and Frank Mann. So Ray was voted out about 2013. Bob Janes passed away about 2011, and Frank Mann is still on the commission. So this is just a list of commissioners that served 10 years or more. And another important feature of growth management in Southwest Florida after that Growth Management Act in '85 was the creation of the Burt Harris Private Property Protection Act in 1995. And this really changed, I believe, the way that elected officials and people were able and engaging with each other about what would happen to us in our local home rule landscape. So I wanted you remember I said 2008 was a very important year. So the county commissioners in 2008 petitioned or hired Dover Cole and Partners. It was almost $2 million to create this Southeast Lee County density reduction groundwater resource study. And this was commissioned, I believe, partially in a response to trying to understand how a local government could maintain home rule and envision the future that would fit their community plans, and in the face of the Burt-Harris Act, okay? So, you know, you can't target individual property owners, but the idea I think that they had was, you know, this is our landscape, elected officials are responsible for the local community, and this is a structure that they put in place kind of to try to be able to maintain that, and again, in my perspective. So you can see mining, this is lime rock mining in the background here. Lots and lots of mining pits if you look at Lee County from a satellite. So this was 2008, and I just thought it was the easiest place to pick up some of the images and to show you what the DRGR looked like. Okay, so I'm going to go to this one first so that you get the big picture of where the DRGR is. So this is Cape Coral, Sanibel, the Caloosahatchee River, and then this area in red is this density reduction groundwater resource area. It is east of I-75. And you can see all of these little things are drinking water wells, okay? So these are the public water supplies with the protection zones around them, which was supposed to groundwater resource recharge, right? This is the water that we're gonna be drinking well into the future, hopefully. And so this is what that landscape looked like in 2008. So you can see Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary is gonna be over here. The Crew Land Trust lands are in here. You can see lots and lots of agriculture fields. And then here you start to get all those mining pit holes, okay? And again, it was applied in 1990. The DRGR came to be what it is as a result of that Growth Management Act and stuff. So there's the well, drinking water wells. This is just a definition of density reduction groundwater resource, the idea that we need that water, and the original intent, most important part, was compatibility to maintain the water at historic levels, not just density reduction of lower numbers of humans on the landscape. So this again is 1960. This is how wet the landscape was before we came. So you can see the mining rocks. You don't even have the airport yet. Oh, there's the airport right up here. Okay, so that's what the landscape looked like then. This is the overlay of the DRGR that shows panther habitat. So the mauve color is primary panther habitat, most important and valuable use for panthers, and the secondary is in light yellow. And you can see that essentially the entire DRGR is panther habitat. So I guess just kind of a mantra, who we vote for matters. What they do when they're in office matters. What they direct their hired managers to do matters even more. And what and how the staff respond matters. Which of us that are stakeholders to get the ears of the officials matter. How the elected officials respond matter. And when I scheduled a meeting with one of our commissioners a few years ago, he let me know that I'm a stakeholder and I'm no different a stakeholder as a developer is. And that kind of shocked me because I didn't realize that, you know, because I envision, you know, I don't have the time or the resources to talk to the elected officials as much or effectively as people that, you know, lobbyists that are hired. But what gives me hope is that when we work together, that matters a lot too. So who we elect matters. 2011, I said that Rick Scott was a big player in this. So in 2011, this is from the WFSU public radio station. He signed the law that effectively dismantled the Department of Community Affairs. So the Department of Community Affairs was this state agency that you could go to when you didn't like what the county was doing and say, hey, this does not match the Growth Management Act. This is a development of regional impact. You know, this needs to be examined for somebody besides the county because it's affecting the whole region. And with that dismantling, this is a quote, that the Department of Community Affairs was a job-killing agency. And by the dissolution of it, the dismantling of it, they didn't entirely dissolve it. This gives our governor flexibility to carry out economic development and jobs creation. And that, has kind of become the Trump suit. And I'll go back to the colloquium course. We don't have the opportunity for this sort of economic development, these sorts of jobs. The quality that we love in Southwest Florida is because of the environment, the ecosystem. If it's not healthy, the entire system falls apart. And we've seen that happen, and it's not getting better. And surprisingly, they changed it into the Department of Economic Opportunity. So what started to be a growth management, make sure we protect our habitat, keep our landscape able to take care of us, now is the Department of Economic Opportunity. So I'll just jump forward. Hopefully you got a good bit of feel for what the DRGR came to be and what it was meant for. And I wanted to talk about the EEO. So this is the Environmental Enhancement Overlay. So these are storyboards, which are super cool. I want to show you this one. This is a product of Lee County's ArcGIS program, which is just incredible. So it's an overlay storyboard, and here's the instructions. So if you click here and just zoom in or out, you can see, what our world looks like at a variety of different scales. So if this interests you, come to it more. And if you click down here, you get this information so the EEO was, started in 2015, and it was amendment to the Lee Plan. Okay, and it was looking specifically at this wild blue development. So this is FGCU here. These are mining pits. Okay, and then these over here, the place at Corkscrew Pepperland Ranch. All right. And so I just wanted to show you how cool these storyboards are. And this is the story as told by Lee County. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that, give you an opportunity to see it, hopefully spend some time on it. And as I said, this is a 2015 Board of County Commissioners amendment and their language. So there's just a close-up, and you can see green is or was conservation land and easements, and more agriculture, just a little close-up of that part of the DRGR. This is another storyboard. Some of you, the other thing that Laura asked me to talk about was this map 14 elimination. And so this is another storyboard from Lee County that talks about that. Now I wanted to highlight some of the important players that have been, vocal parts of how Lee County has developed and how our elected officials, engage and interact. So one of them is the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. This is a web page of theirs that talks about their perspective of this map 14 and its role, from the perspective of the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. And in addition to Lee County, I wanted to give you a couple different perspectives. Another one is from Lee Future, which is an organization that started more recently. Okay, and then these are a couple maps that Pete Cangliosa put together for me that just identify map 14 authorized mines, and then some proposed ones that are now in the works. I believe Troyer has been permitted. You're going to see, this is just a bigger view again from Pete of all these different parcels and developments that are now being permitted and constructed in formerly the density reduction groundwater resource area. You've got, in FFD, which is number 7, 5,200 homes right there. This entire area used to be 1 home per 10 acres. And one of the marketing tools was, it's better to put these homes in more dense areas and with city sewer, rather than having a whole bunch of septic tanks across this landscape. So that's another presentation I'll give you if you come to see my science talks. Let's get to 2006 to 2017. I wanted to show you, I think my point here was just, again, those 3 commissioners that made a difference, that wrote that had that original one planned. So let me give you 2 months ago, February 8th of 2021, the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management, the FFD development agreement. So this is the parcel. And this is the letter that the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management wrote after we saw this presentation. Again, I highlighted these 2 paragraphs. So the original letter, 8 or 10 pages long, is from the Conservancy of Southwest Florida that lays out precise details and expectations of how this land could or should be developed in such a way that would most effectively speak to the Lee Comprehensive Plan criteria and help us manage that landscape in a way that's going to protect this resource for all of us to enjoy our quality of life. So some of the most important things were where we put the fences. So wildlife, you know, they're getting fewer and fewer wildlife corridors. And it's like we keep wanting to send them somewhere, but we don't have as much, you know, places for them to be. We just keep telling them to send. How close they are to homes, because we need to manage with fire. So I do research on gopher tortoises. They need about 3 to 7 year fire interval. Panthers, a student of mine, we just got a paper out about panther den selection. So where the panthers choose to put their dens, they prefer a 3 to 5 year interval as well. And so the more we build the landscape and prohibit fire, and oftentimes that's done to protect our buildings, make it safe on the roads because of the smoke, as well as protecting our lungs, right? So all of that prevents fire from being used as it was historically. And then of course the traffic, you know, that the vast majority of panthers that get killed here are killed by encounters on the road with humans. And, you know, we asked for a postponement of the approval process, but knowing from the start that wouldn't happen. It speaks back to that public input place. So probably years in negotiation between the FFD owners and development and Lee County staff behind the scenes at those meetings where the public wasn't participating as fully or as long to be able to engage it. So, you know, ABM kind of came late to the show, but not by choice, I'd say. So I want to skip to the last one, and I'm really purposefully tried to make this short. I hope I did okay, because I need to hear from you guys the most. So Kiker Preserve.
Dr. Demers, there is a question from Sue Osen. Isn't there an act going through Florida State House to take development out of the hands of local government?
Yes, ma'am. And there are SLAP suits, strategic lawsuits against public participation. Maggie Herchilla just lost at the Supreme Court, chose not to take on her case, which she feels was a First Amendment right. She got slapped with a lawsuit of $4 million or so on the other coast, and she appealed at several levels. And the Supreme Court chose not to take on her case. And so now she owes $4 million. So yeah, and hopefully that will be part of the dialogue that we have in a few minutes here. So the Kiker Preserve. So again, this is the Conservancy of Southwest Florida talking about Edison Farms and the purchase done by the Lee County Commissioners in 2017 after Lee County elected Lee County residents voted again on Conservation 2020. So Conservation 2020 is a program that started by votes from the citizens, put on the ballot by the RGMC, the League of Women Voters, and others to set aside a small piece of our taxes every year to purchase to try to get at least 20% of Lee County into conservation lands by 2020. And we have done that, and they have exceeded its goal. And it continues. And then maybe 2015 or so, with pushing from a number of organizations, we asked that to be on the ballot again to reaffirm the commitment of the residents of Southwest Florida to continue to conserve, preserve, and manage conservation lands so that we had clean water, so that we had somewhere to look at the birds, right? So again, just trying to fill in that the Conservancy was a big player. And then they actually have a storyboard. And so I wanted to pull up their storyboard because it's incredibly helpful as well. Okay, so this talks about Edison Farms. Here's the airport, here's FGCU. This is where I live in San Carlos Park. And out here is the DRGR. And so these 6 parcels are, I think 160 acres each or so, or I missed the number. Okay, so that's Edison Farms. And if you continue to scroll down, this is information. It was adjacent to, let me go to our next board. So it shows the Florida Forever program as well. So this right here is Edison Farms. You can see it's, in the DRGR and adjacent to Crew Land Trust, a public-private partnership to purchase over 85,000 acres and put them in conservation, and the Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. Okay, so it was important. This was a parcel that conservation agencies, leagues of women voters, everybody has been trying to get into public ownership since well before I came to Southwest Florida. So it started as Agri-Partners, then it was Edison Farms, and then it was purchased in 2017. And then when Commissioner Kiker passed away while he was in office, they named it the Kiker Preserve. So again, this shows you that landscape and the historic flowways and how wet that parcel, I have to say, was, because it's no longer managed like that. Because you take away water in these sheet flows, you'll end up with more drier, higher lands anyway. But the idea from many of the people that advocated for so long for this acquisition was that one of the most important and main parts was to try to recreate as much as possible the historic flowways and ways to keep the water on our landscape so that the earth could serve as the kidneys of the planet and clean that water for us and make it available for us and for future generations. And so this is a little close-up of, a closer look, most important parts for it. Endangered Florida panther. So this is just the radio tagged panther telemetry from 1981 to 2015. Okay, so again, the university is right in here, and then you can see where panthers were. Some still are. The only reason we have any of these data is because of the panther license plates. So the entire research program for the panthers is paid for by those license plates. So no research would be available, as far as I know, on any telemetry, any of this research, without, again, public participation. And then let me carry on. I didn't want to spend a lot of time there, but just showing you, what the Conservancy's envisioning was for that parcel. And then
the slides aren't moving. There we go.
Where are you now? Let me do something different. Sorry. The slides aren't moving. What does that mean?
It's now on Legend mit Aussicht.
Hold on. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let me see if I can get it back. I'm not finding my share screen button anymore. I don't know what happened.
Did you find it? Scroll down, try scrolling down and hovering your.
Yeah, it's only given me the screen of the people. Let me see if I give it a different.
Try Alt-5. I'm sorry, Alt-S.
Alt-S. That did it.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know why it went all the way back to that one, but let me see if I can get us back to the right slide very quickly and hopefully wrap this up. So February was the FFD development brought to the agency on bay management. I'm almost there, sorry guys. Okay, can you now see this picture? So my most recent thing, oh, I don't have the date on here. I thought I kept it. This was for our March meeting. This was our March meeting. So I got an email from an ABM member asking me to have a presentation about, have us talk about the Kiker Preserve. This person had gone to the IES meeting, so the Conservation 2020 group, and concern about the intensity of the public usage across that 4,000 acres. And like I just mentioned with the Conservancy presentation, when it was acquired, many of us thought and envisioned, that original purpose of Conservation 2020 lands, which was not solely access to humans. And I have to channel Ellen Peterson, because Ellen, for many, many years, was very adamant that public access is incredibly important for public lands, because we need to know it, we need to be able to see it in order to value it and appreciate it. But I can tell you also that I've been trying actively to participate with primarily Lee County government for a couple of decades, and getting into that public participation part, being able to know what's happening. So after 2017 flood, Lee County again hired several different engineering companies to do a comprehensive analysis of how to try to prevent flood control. And they came to ABM, and I tried for quite a while to get them to come, and the DNR director was unwilling to come until it was all done and available to the public. So current staff and direction from Lee County is, we're not going to talk to you or we're not going to talk to the public on record until it's been through the entire process of the county. So this is a solicitation for proposed bids to do this to the Kiker Preserve. And apparently this was the first reveal at our ABM meeting to Commissioner Kiker. I'm sorry, not Kiker, to the current chair of the BOCC. And so I wasn't at the meeting, but I did listen to it after, and it made it all the more clear that importance and the role of the manager and the direction he provides to staff, and the role that the commissioners or the elected officials at whatever municipality they might belong to play in what happens to the landscape. So you can see this is pretty far along, and it's pretty clear that a lot of it has to do with access to humans in these trails. So I wanted to mention one more thing that I didn't put on there, but I should have. Part of that big report of flooding mitigation was this priority matrix. And Roland did present the concept of that priority matrix to the ABM when he came in August. and the ABM membership, the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, Audubon, said, you know, can you show us the matrix so we can talk about it? And they said, well, it's not public yet. And we said, well, can we give you some ideas about, you know, what to do with it that would help meet the, you know, the goals and the purpose of the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management? And they said, sure. And so we wrote a letter. And I think we still don't know whether or not that priority matrix has been revealed to the county commissioners or accepted. And it's because I'm, you know, I can't follow this as much as, you know, other people. So yeah, to everything there is a season. Calusa waterkeepers, their water quality trends of the entire county area, just hitting some of the more recent and vocal people. Lee Future, Women for a Better Lee. I wanted to highlight this piece in March of 2021. This was Charlotte Newton, who's one of the Women for a Better Lee. And she says that they're fiercely nonpartisan. And as I engage and watch the Facebook interactions between Women for a Better Lee and some of the commissioners that are on my Facebook feed as well, it's very clear that nonpartisan does not mean non-controversial or non-confrontational. And I'm trying to find out where that middle ground is. And, you know, when everything I've just talked to you about is about legislation and holding ourselves accountable to the rules and laws we put in for ourselves, where unfortunately it's a litigious society and litigation is where these things have been playing out for years, right? So another big one is the Estero Council for Civic Leaders. This was pre-villages, you know, that's now, they still exist, but I've known and participated with Don Eslick, you know, as soon as he got here. I had always thought that there was never a Burt Harris Act that was won, and just found this when I was, you know, trying to put this together. So yeah, the appellate court ruled in favor of the Burt Harris Act. So that threat it's not just a threat, it's real. And I think it does influence, of course, how legislative officials act, because they're responsible fiscally as well. So this is the Florida League of Cities talking about very recently about their opposition to the Burt Harris Act. And this goes to the conversation I think we're going to have about legislation. I just wanted to highlight why I'm so grateful and feel embarrassed to be presenting to this group. You know, the League of Women Voters has been doing this since 1949 in Lee County. And your mission is responsible to vote and to shape public policy. And voting is not enough. So we did our Salatega 2020. You can click on it here. One of the presentations in the afternoon session. This one I will show you. It's called The Estero Bay is in Trouble, What Citizens Can Do to Help. And if you click right here, you will get an agenda to every one of these presentations. So Jim Beaver's State of the Bay. And then the afternoon session, public participation was started with Clara Ann Graham. I was honored to share the stage with her, as well as Maggie Herchala. Can you be sued for trying to save the world? Myself with public participation in advisory boards, explaining that several advisory boards are lacking members, and there's a lot of reasons for that. So let me see if I can properly get back to, this is where it goes wrong. Do you see my last slide now? And, you know, again, another one of the players is you guys, League of Women Voters. This was the 2017, your statement, one of many. Who we elect matters. 19, these are the presidents. And I wanted to point this one out because 69 to 73, I was 10 years old. I wasn't really knowing what was going on, but I found out later, you know, it wasn't Richard Nixon that by choice signed the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. That was people. That was people demanding protection and cleaning up of our environment. And so, you know, what we do does matter. Who they appoint matters. And So if you don't know about the story of stuff, this is one that I make sure my students know about. And I'm sure almost everybody here knows the Citizens United versus the FEC, which gave corporations First Amendment rights. This was 2010, and I think it really has a lot to do with how elected officials are listening to different publics in different ways. And then I thought I should start with what I find myself doing quite often as a faculty member and as a chair of the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management, and that is navel gazing. What do we do now? So we're trying to figure out, what role does the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management have when even the regional planning councils are not what they were, and local government entities are not participating. Some of them have withdrawn. Many of them have stopped providing the money to the RPC to do its task. What happens to the Estero Bay Agency when
We haven't voted.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm gonna take my new toolbox over to the studio,
Okay,
and I'll be back shortly.
okay.
Please,
got
please
it.
mute,
You like-
please mute, everyone, please mute. Okay, that's it, I'm done. 10:26, unfortunately, it looks like I went way over time.
Oh, I'll see you in a little bit.
So now I want to ask you guys, what do we do now? And questions in general. So I'll check the tweets or the chats. Laura,
If you have any questions in the chat right now, you can enter your questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
so Denise asked, how do you get a copy of the slides so we can click those links? I'm going to make it available. It looks like you guys are putting the YouTube video on.
We are going to send a copy of this recording to everyone that's registered. So if you wanted to email us a copy of your PowerPoint, we'll include that with the video as well.
Good, and I'll probably put it on my YouTube channel as well. We will send everyone a copy. Isn't there an act going through to take development? Absolutely. So not just development, Key West just voted to limit how many cruise ships come into Key West. And state legislation is trying to say, no, you can't do that either. So home rule has been, it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition of the idea of big government and land use decisions being made locally, but the state government continuing for as long as I've been here to try to overrule home rule. And totally the slap. Lawsuits against public participation are huge. Pete, go ahead.
Along those same veins, the state is getting really, really mundane. Do you recall, everyone, that they instituted a law against banning sipping straws by local governments? That's how ridiculous they've become.
And if we can, if those of you that are still here and want to talk, if you would show your video so we have faces instead of names. That black screen with white letters just doesn't do it for me the same as being in a room. 6:30. I've got about 30. Yep, looks like we're right at 30. Okay, so gosh, I went way too long. Okay, Conservation 2020 was 2016.
Yeah. What happened there was the commissioners at the time, I think it was in early 2016, they decided to put Conservation 2020 on the ballot later that year as a referendum. It was the belief among many that they did that because that crop of commissioners were very development hungry. And so therefore they wanted to cripple the conservation program by hopefully killing the Conservation 2020 program. When the commissioners announced that they were going to put that on the referendum later in the year, all of the local environmental conservation organizations said, no, don't do that. It is much there is not enough time to get such an important referendum like that out to the public to educate them about the necessity of the program. And if you recall, the county cannot educate their residents about a program that's on the referendum. So it was up to environmental conservation organizations to educate the public about the necessity of the program. And it did win with an 84% plurality yes vote. But it was the commissioners who initiated it, putting it back out to referendum, not the public.
Thank you, Pete. And it really matters, because even with the referendum, you still have to appropriate the money. And the appropriation for funds for acquisition and management of that land, I mean, at the federal and at the state and the local level, there's this same, it's kind of like what happened with the lottery when they said it was going to be for education. So that
Irene or Mel?
The government stopped funding
We're not
except for
muted.
legislation. The same thing happened at the state level with Florida Forever funds and locally with Conservation 2020. So not putting in as much money and redirecting it. But you did get that big Edison Farms parcel. And now, you know, we'll see. It really depends on who speaks to the commissioners, how they direct staff, how our budget gets spent. So here you go. It's not enough to just vote on them. Conservation lands are never preserved forever. That was a very important lesson too. You keep doing the same fights and protections as long as you live.
Well, in the silence, I'll just bring up that it is, we need to be vigilant. Edison Farms is not yet been restored. There's a lot of invasives on the property. It's going to be a very long and expensive process. The other thing that's very concerning is that there is still, we believe, efforts afoot to get 951, that's a north-south 4-lane road, to bisect Edison Farms to connect Collier County with the airport to the east side of Interstate 75. And to put a 4-lane highway through Edison Farms would basically kill that site.
Yes, kill is a big word, certainly change the landscape. I kind of badger FGCU as well. And just to, you know, I brought it up at the ABM. We did a land exchange with Lee County and Wild Blue. And go look at the documents. It very specifically is saying this land traded with FGCU for the northern end of County Road 951. So they're currently realigning Airport Hall Road with Wild Blue, and absolutely it's on its way. So does anybody have questions? Please?
I have one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm wondering what the league can do to help along on the Kiker thing, you know, and letters. What can we do to help?
I hope that the league can tell me that. You guys have been doing this since 1949. What you know, right now, I'm incredibly frustrated because for the past 10 years, I've been trying to work collaboratively with the county on the East Mulock Water Control District here in San Carlos Park. And I can't engage with them. I don't know how much of it is because, you know, I'm just the public. I'm not an engineering firm. I'm a woman. I don't know what the reasons are. Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management is an advisory committee. Lee County is choosing not to participate. They have that right. So what can the public do to engage our government in the light of Citizens United, the fact that, you know, all we can do is provide public input. The people in power don't all necessarily want public input. You know, I see a window of hope right now on the ABM because Ron being on it, I know I'm saying his name wrong, Laura Carr from the city of Bonita Springs, and Bill Veach. So that's 3 elected officials that have come to the
Mhm.
past couple ABM meetings. And right now, that's giving me my biggest reason for hope. You know,
Mhm.
can we find a way
Okay.
to speak as much as we can with our elected officials and see if they might be interested in giving different direction to the staff? And they can't give it directly to the staff, right? They have to give it to the county manager or the city manager that then directs staff. So that's as
Well-
much as I've learned about how the
Okay.
government works. I don't know how to do it.
We will talk at a board meeting about perhaps we can help with some letter writing and that kind of thing anyway. We'll do what we can.
So I'd like to add to that, I think in addition to all the work done by individual organizations, we probably need to work together more closely. I know we have in the past in coalition and coordination so that we can
Mhm.
support each other's work when it's appropriate for our organization and just stay informed on all the issues and what's happening. So I'd like to, for those of you from other organizations participating today, please continue to involve the league in your thoughts and ideas and actions.
And get your children and grandchildren. We need the sustainability of this. We need the legacy that you guys have created to carry on. It's only when we get a little more mature that we have the time or interest or opportunity to start to participate in our government. I am so privileged to be able to do this. And it's not my job. You know, this is just what I do, you know. So yeah. Pete.
It's really unfortunate that the league is, by their charter apparently, unwilling to support individual candidates for the village, for the Lee County
But there's
Commission.
other organizations that can, and many of us belong to many different organizations.
Unfortunately, as just about everybody on the line knows, we have at least 3, probably 4 of the commissioners that are going to turn a dead ear to this. I mean, it was written very, very clearly in the news press about 6 weeks ago about how they are all tied in with the developers. And there is no question, if you look at their voting record, only Frank Mann has stood up to be counted. And it's, until we can change the face of that commission, I think we're just fighting uphill. Very, very, very difficult battle.
Well, I don't want to wait for it to change in order to keep trying, you know. I need the reason for hope. I just told my boss the other day when I was asking him to hire another faculty member, no is only an answer if you choose to accept it. Beat my head against a lot of walls, Robert. I absolutely agree with you, but I need to wake up with reasons for hope. You know, and these elected officials, they're the ones we have. And hopefully we can find a way to pressure to them to help them understand that supporting the developers means supporting and keeping this habitat healthy. You know, those $1 million homes aren't being built next to highways. They're being built adjacent to conservation lands that are well managed.
The league's nonpartisan status and its not wanting to endorse candidates does not prevent us from providing good information to voters on the issues and the positions of candidates. And we do that each election season and in between. So I hope that others will recognize that we will consistently be nonpartisan, but we are also consistent on our issues, many of which have we've been working on since 1920 and beyond. So it's served us well over this time, and we do want people to be informed and to vote in the citizens' interest. So we will continue that role to educate.
And the most important part is to have people to vote for and acknowledge that they're not going to get elected the first time. I've seen way many candidates try once and then stop and walk away. You know, it takes a while to get name recognition, you know, and enough.
Very good.
Go ahead, Pete.
Do you mind if I plug my group if people are interested in Conservation 2020 and what's happening with that county, with that program on the county level? I will anyways. If you're
That's fine.
interested in,
Go for it.
if you're interested in what's happening with the Conservation 2020 program in Lee County, and it is not easy to find out that kind of information, please follow us on Facebook. Eyes on Conservation 2020. I put a note up in the chat. We follow that and we let our followers know what's happening, what the county's doing, when there are key meetings or key decisions being taken by the county or the Citizen Advisory Committee regarding that program. So hopefully if you're interested in Conservation 2020, you can follow us and see what's happening and maybe even join us. Thank you.
Very recently, a FGCU graduate had been working for Lee County for a while, and she just left. So she's working somewhere else now. There's a lot of people that are retired.
The new environmental specialist at 6 Mile Cypress Slough, the environmental person there who keeps an eye on the place, she just left to join the Port Authority. She had only been there for a few months, unfortunately. So that's a big loss.
I'd like to thank Pete for sharing that information and encourage the rest of you to share as well. The League, it's important to share information, and the League can make its own decisions about what it can take action on and not, but we certainly would like citizens to be informed and to know what other organizations are doing to promote the environment. So thank you. And thank you for your work as well.
Are we ready to close yet, Sandy? Are we ready to close the meeting?
Are there any more questions or comments, or anyone would like to speak, share a little bit about their organization or some proposed actions?
Well, I am a longtime director and officer of the ECCL. I retired about a year ago from that role. And I know that they have a series of, I believe it's 6 priorities that they recently established. And the environment certainly is an important part of that. They have new leadership there. And I would encourage those that are a part of other organizations to reach out to them. And I will personally look into having them at the ECCL reach out to you folks so that all the organizations with the same mindset can work together on these issues.
And ECCL is a member of the Estero Bay Agency on Bay Management. Pete used to be that representative. I know somebody else was appointed, not sure if they're participating. What other organizations are here?
I'm Charlotte Newton from Women for a Better Lee. Hi, Nora. I loved your presentation. I look forward to getting the slides and maybe talking with you about that. Women for a Better Lee, as was mentioned, is nonpartisan. However, we haven't endorsed any candidates yet, but we will be endorsing candidates, so I have to put that out front. But we strongly believe that, in order to change the decisions being made, we absolutely have to change our county commission. And one of the ways that we feel that's important to change is to get diversity on the commission and have a woman's voice on the commission who will advocate for these issues that you've talked about. So we're a membership organization that doesn't charge any membership dues. So if you are interested in us, I encourage you to, we can send out more information. I encourage you to go to WFBL2022@gmail. So I'd like to hear from as many people as possible. Be happy to send out information on our activities. I see there are a lot of people on this call who are actually members of ours. So good to see you involved with the League as well.
What other organizations are here? Teresa, I know your name, but I don't recall. So who else is here representing other organizations? Give me some feedback, guys. I will try to make sure that all of those links to the Conservancy, ECCL, IES are in my presentation, so you can just click on it and find their Facebook page or whatever it is.
I'd like to mention that we have worked with the Conservancy over the years, and we certainly appreciate them. Are we ready to close now, Sandy?
I think Teresa had just unmuted. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that I've learned quite a bit today, and I'm actually getting ready to go back for my master's degree. Just for these reasons. I get so frustrated with watching all the land get ripped up for no apparent reason when there's so many buildings that are already vacant. So I feel that I'll be joining a few of these groups here shortly.
Thank you. Again, we appreciate your participation, and please share with us what your organizations are doing. And now, Laura, I'm turning it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, one of the things I admire most about Nora is the fact that she's not only a good scientist, she is also interested in the humanities. And I think we need more of that combination. She cares about how people live in that healthy environment that we want. She also did something this week that I can't remember any speaker ever asking before. She wanted to be close to the group, and she certainly has been. She wanted to know who was watching and who was listening. And I think that's a nice connection that she has made. It tells us a lot about what kind of person Nora is. So thank you, Nora. I think we have learned a lot. My history goes back 35 years here, and you reminded me a lot of a lot of things that I have forgotten. So thanks, Nora. You'll be welcome back with us anytime at all. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was definitely a trip down memory lane for, my short time here as well. A lot of good names on that RGMC membership that I miss.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been a good time to talk about the charter review coming up for the county, and that's so are we done?
So, Laura, did you have anything else?
No, I'm finished.
I want to get a couple names off the chat before you guys go. Ashrith.
Charter review.
Do any of you guys still here?
I'm done.
ARIDH.
Well, Nora's writing, and I think we can also share those with you, Nora, but one issue that will be coming up soon, and I don't remember exactly how many years, will be the charter review, where one of the issues continues to be how commissioners are elected in Lee County, which right now they're all elected county-wide, and that can be changed through the charter review. So something to think about for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So Ashrith, I'm going to put my email in the chat, and hopefully we can follow up as well. And I put my personal one, but I'm also putting FGCU because I feel like this is my job. This is my community service.
Do you want to review how people would audit courses at FGCU? I think that might be, there seemed to be some interest in that. What do they need to do?
Yeah, let me.
Or we can forward it later if you want to.
Yeah, so when I send that PowerPoint, that 60 plus slide, it's a hot link, gets you right to the page. So Pete's done it a few times. It's a kind of challenging to negotiate through. Send me a note, I can help you. There's some paperwork. Most of the time, if you just reach out to a faculty member and ask to audit, they're mostly willing to have you in the class, even without the formal paperwork, but you didn't hear that from me.
But that is an important tip.
Yes.
Personal touch is always good. Well, again, thank you all for joining us. This will be the, well, I'm not going to say that because we may do things virtually. Typically, we end our educational programs in April or May and then reconvene in October. But one of the advantages of Zoom has been that we can more easily hold meetings. So I will not say that. Please sign up for email information from the league, and you will be notified of any events that we have planned. And thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Laura, give me
Yes.
how'd I do? I mean,
I think just great. Oh, and I might point out, we have a meeting Monday, right? I haven't mentioned that I represent the league on the Agency for Bay Management and have for a long time. And I'm one of the least well-prepared people for that because I'm not a scientist. So I do a lot of listening at those meetings. So I guess I'll sit and I'll see you Monday.
yeah, do the best we can every day, right?
Mhm.
Thank y'all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank you, Irene, for hosting.
Oh, yeah, no, it went well. You did. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
It's only 30 people, 31 was a max.
Are we good to close out?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.